I'm Rich Lewis. Welcome to You've Only Come to Hear United. Great 5-2 win for Ruud's first match in charge, but I don't think we learned too much, and it's kind of why I wasn't super keen on doing a review on the game, because I think it was becoming apparent very quickly that Ruud wasn't going to be here for the longer term. You're not going to start to look at things in terms of how he is going to be as a Manchester United manager, and what is going to change going forwards. It's more about keeping the wheels spinning at the moment. And yeah, we didn't see too much change in the game. I think maybe bringing Ethan Wheatley towards the end was something Eric Ten Hag wouldn't have done. I saw Xerxes move over wide for little parts of the game, which I thought was interesting. Was that intentional, or was that just the movement on the pitch? Again, there wasn't really too much there. But the one thing for me that I think was inevitable, and people had talked about before the game, if we showed up and put on a performance, was the narrative that the players have suddenly started trying for Ruud and they couldn't be bothered for Eric Ten Hag. And predictably, obviously, because we scored 5 goals and we've been struggling to score for one, that obviously happened. There were some pretty well-known names on YouTube in particular going down that route. You wouldn't have to look far on any sort of social media platform to find people peddling the obvious. And it was just when you look at the goals and you just consider that what Casemiro's put one in the top corner from 35 yards or whatever it was. We had a deflected free kick in there too. One was a rebound header off, after Casemiro's header came off the post and he put in the rebound. Bad back pass led to Bruno managing to get on the end of his opportunity in the second half, which he did finish really well going around the goalkeeper. I think even the second goal, and I think was it Dalot was potentially offside as well. So yeah, you can't if we don't get the rub of the green in that game, you're not scoring 5 goals. It's one of those things, and what I would say is luck was definitely on our side where it hasn't been for Eric Ten Hag. That's just one of those things. But I wouldn't say I don't think we've seen it with Eric where the players have down tools. You get the same narrative peddled over and over again about some of these players have outlasted too many managers and haven't been doing it. I think there's been very few occasions where I've watched us since Alex Ferguson retired where I genuinely thought these players aren't behind the manager and aren't trying. I think there have been occasions it's happened, but I don't think that's happened under Eric Ten Hag. And I know different people have different feelings about the way things have gone, but for me, a lot of the blame in terms of our performances has often come in terms of how we've set up in games and the lack of trying to tweak and change things when things haven't gone wrong. So for me, a lot of it has been in the manager's camp in terms of that respect. But I don't think he ever lost the players. I don't think that's a fair thing to lay at the team that they've suddenly turned up to work for the new manager. Now coming back to Ruud and looking at things going forward, great win for him at the start. It was difficult to change anything going into a game at such short notice, and you could probably maybe the same for Chelsea. But now we know Ruben Amorim is coming in. For me, the question that I haven't seen anybody talking about so far, maybe it's because it's a daft question, I don't know, but I want to know: should Ruud be allowed to do his own thing, or should he be testing the waters for Ruben Amorim? I think, as difficult as it would be, knowing that he's only there for a few games, we should start trying to play a three at the back if that is what Amorim intends to come in and do. I'm sure some initial conversations will have been had with the club, but with Ruud being there for such a short period of time, and the fact that Amorim is going to come in over an international break, and he's not going to get to work with a lot of the players until they come back from the internationals. What's going to happen against Ipswich is Amorim going to look at it and go, I don't want to change things too much, because his system in terms of just formation, his formation in particular is very different to Eric Ten Hag's. And in different stages of play, there are obviously similarities. If any of you were like me, and I'm sure some of you would have done the same thing, you'd have been watching videos of Amorim's setup and how he likes to play and build. And there are some similarities at different points as the team move through the pitch, but I think that the base formation for starters is fundamentally different. The use of wing backs. It's not something I don't think players can just turn up back from the international break and jump into. So I think Ruud should definitely be trying out a three at the back system and just trying to mirror as closely as possible the way Sporting tried to set up for games. Because I think that's going to be a big shock to the players to just jump back in midway through a season and try something new. And if we don't do that, you've basically got Amorim then having to adjust to a different way of playing himself with players that he's not super familiar with in some respects too. So I'm surprised more people haven't been talking about this. If people have, please let me know. Put it in the comments below because I want to go and watch those videos because I'm quite curious to see how people what people think about this. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we do against Chelsea. Now, the next thing is that I've been curious about, and I have seen people talking about this. I've seen headlines about Amorim potentially having limited funds in December, which makes sense because even in next summer, we made a lot of signings this summer gone. So I think that would be a reasonable expectation to have of any manager coming in. To know that you're not going to be working with a large war chest. But I'd argue that, and this isn't. I've seen a few people mentioning this now. I'd argue that we knew Amorim was next up. It feels like unless Ten Hag pulled a blinder this season, I think after they spoke to the people they spoke to in the summer, I think they went into this season with a very clear picture of if things didn't work out with Erik Ten Hag, who was going to be the person that they wanted to bring in. And I'm pretty sure they had Ruben Amorim's name down top of that list. When you look at the signings we made in the summer, I think you can argue to a point that he's already had his transfer window. Now, Manuel Ugarte has played with him before and will suit his system perfectly. Obviously he knows that system. He knows what will be required of him, and it's one area of the team that Ruben Amorim will be hoping he doesn't have to worry about too much. There's nothing new to teach there. Matthijs de Ligt is vastly experienced, and thinking of him as a linchpin of a three at the back just makes a lot of sense. I think he's got a lot of qualities there. Very versatile sort of centre back. I think he's quite hard to pin down to say he is X, Y, or Z. Maybe not the quickest, but apart from that, he's got a lot of skills. Very technical, very strong. He's a very well-rounded centre back, and I think he's quickly becoming a fan favourite too. Lenny Yoro's ability to carry the ball, his technical ability too. We haven't obviously got to see a lot of him in a Manchester United shirt, but any of the clips that you can watch of him online, you can see quite clearly how he could fit into the right-hand centre-back position. Mazraoui, his versatility to play either wing-back position. I feel people have been quite dismissive of Mazraoui as a wing-back. I've been in a lot of the videos I've watched, Dalot gets brought up to play possibly either on the right or the left hand side. Some doubts over him playing on the left. I've seen somebody put Mazraoui as the right centre back in there, but Mazraoui is more than capable of covering either wing, and he can definitely do a job for us there. Definitely at right wing back, obviously, and he could cover at left wing back if needed. And then another little thing that I found interesting was, I'm sure some of you will have seen too, the links with Afonso Davies. I think he was back maybe a couple of weeks ago now, but it was before Amorim coming in, and I just remember seeing us link with him and thinking, how's that going to work? Like as a sort of left wing back, is he really going to come in and just play left back for us? I don't think that's necessarily his position as such. Yeah, of course he can play there, but I wouldn't say that's his biggest strength. And how are we going to convince him that we're the right club for him? And obviously, he seems somebody who would fit Real Madrid quite well as a free transfer. And yet, looking at the bringing Amorim in now, that position, that left wing back position, the rumours about Afonso Davies make a lot more sense to me now. And again, that was knocking around before Amorim came in. So, I might be putting two and two together and getting like 30 there, but I think there might be something in that. And to me, just the way we moved so quickly after Ten Hag left to bring him in, this felt much more by design. It would have been easy for the board to have not sacked Ten Hag yet. And it would have also been easy for them to have sacked him during the last international break and then to look to bring Amorim in at that point. And for none of this to have sort of gone the way that necessarily would have made the most sense timing wise, because West Ham, you could say the West Ham defeat really wasn't on Erik Ten Hag. It was almost a strange point to to sack him comparatively with the other points this season and last season when he could have gone. I think that there is definitely a timing element to this. This may have been lined up during the last international break. Maybe there'd been some initial discussions there on, okay, when would be the most appropriate time to pull the trigger. Yeah, it would have been difficult if Eric had, won his first games, back after the break. But I do feel that they were looking at that next bad run of form to potentially be the time to pull the trigger, whether that be this international break or whether it be Christmas. I feel like, if anything, the board were happy to do that. And the fact that he's coming in and being called head coach to fitting in with the model that they've got now, I think the board will be relieved that they've been able to make this change. And yeah, it's quite. It's going to be interesting to see how we move forward with Ruben Amorim as the head coach of Manchester United. Another thing that obviously has been discussed is the wing back positions now in the team. As a big feature of the play, we've already talked a little bit about the left wing back position. Obviously, potential signings, people who might come into the club, another being Alvaro Fernandez, who has been doing brilliantly at Benfica so far this season. A number of people have mentioned that this would be a great opportunity to bring him back into the system. If you have been watching the videos about Amorim's system, I don't think you necessarily need to be looking at a left back or a right back to fill those roles, or you don't find too many people who purely play wing back these days. You could look at Frimpong, for example, who's someone who could be brought in to play a wing back role. But his wing backs are basically wingers who've got I'd say good work ethic defensively. I think Garnacho could definitely do that if he wanted to play there, which I don't know if he'd be open to it. Rashford could do that. He can get back. People have criticised him in the past for not. But I think that depends on his role in the team and what he's been asked to do. I think if he was asked to do it, he would do it. Whether he wanted to do it or not is a different matter altogether. Ahmad, I think he's a very hard worker. He could definitely play the left wing back role. It depends if Amorim wants an inverted wing back or not this year. I know he has used that at Sporting at times too. You don't necessarily have to be a person using your correct foot on the correct side necessarily, although I think it does give you more width, and he has done that in the past too. It does open up more possibilities. Garnacho, could he play right or left wing back? We've got people at the club already who could fulfil those roles. It depends maybe if he wants a specialist in those areas too. It's going to be a massive feature of how he plays. And then also, I guess, aside from the wing back roles, is the number 10s behind the striker. Is another big factor there. I think a lot of the other areas of the pitch sort themselves out. Three across the back, I think people look at it and go, you got Martinez, De Ligt, and Yoro, and then the likes of Maguire, Lindelof if he stays beyond January, and Johnny Evans as your backup options there. Ugarte Manu in front seem quite obvious choices when everybody's fit. And then the two tens though behind Højlund, that's very interesting for me. You could tuck in Rashford, Garnacho, Ahmad, and play them more centrally and see that approach to the role. You could have Bruno and Mason Mount and use their qualities and see, look at it from that perspective as two more traditional number 10s. So I'm very curious to see how Amorim approaches that and who he decides to go for. Let me know in the comments what you think, and while you're there, please hit like and subscribe as well. Now, off the back of that, I am curious now, what should our expectations be for the rest of the season? And now, well, first up, as I've just been pointing out, his system should really be perfect for us. And I think that should dictate really our expectations, because if all goes to plan, and things rarely do in football, I think it shouldn't take us too long to adjust. And obviously, if we do lean on Ruud a little to help bed in a 3-4 through a 3-4-2-1 system, then I don't think it'll take the players too long to catch on, just because I think we're set up so well for it already. And I think first and foremost, then you're looking for consistency in our performances, which really, if you get the consistency, what should follow that is top 4 still. We are only 7 points off. It's not too fanciful. I think the league form for a lot of teams this season has been relatively patchy. I think everybody is capable of dropping points. And I think the fact that we're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup, and we're not actually unbeaten in the Europa League despite what is a poor start. You can't argue too much with that with the 3 draws, but because of how easy technically is to qualify for the next stages, that's still a winnable trophy. The FA Cup's perfectly winnable, so top 4 in a trophy is perfectly doable. If he gets off to a really good start, and yeah, I know I'm going to get absolutely slated for this potentially. And if Ruud carries on all right in the next, against Chelsea, for example, and Leicester in the league, if other teams are dropping points above you, there's a lot of ifs here and a lot of buts. You've got to always go for the league while it's possible. You have, and people find that laughable. You'll get people saying no one's suggesting we can go for the league, but while it's mathematically possible, surely you can't rule it out. It seems ridiculous at this point to think it's even a possibility, but stranger things have happened in football. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I seem deluded right now, but I think while it's possible, you have to be going for it still. And yeah, will City, Liverpool, and Arsenal drop enough points to make that a realistic thing that could happen? Well, Arsenal have always got the potential to capitulate. Liverpool are under a new manager, and what will happen if they hit a bad run of form? Manchester City could get a massive points deduction this season still. That we don't know what's going to happen with that and how that's going to play out. And then if Amorim does hit the ground running, he's 9 for 9 in the Portuguese top flight at the moment. Who knows what could happen the rest of this season? That's it from me for today until after the West Ham game. Again, if I'm sure people might have a few things to say about my comments there regarding the title, but yeah, feel free to slam me in the comments. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I will catch you next week. See you later.